I'm so excited to be having this conversation with this amazing father daughter duo. I've heard so much about them, and I'm just so honored to have the pleasure to meet with you guys and chat with you guys today. We're going to talk about their life, we're going to talk about their legacy, their relationship, and ultimately what's up next for the both of them. So please welcome to the stage Miss Lila Lacy and Mr. Larry Miller. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hey, how are you, Jack?
Jackie.
Hi, Jack.
Good to be here.
Yes, thank you
Good.
guys so much for doing this for us and chatting with us. I want to jump right on in and get into the conversation, and let's just start. So, Lila, the first question is for you. What superpowers have you identified in yourself that you have inherited from your successful father, Mr. Larry Miller?
Wow. The first thing that comes to mind, I would say, is tenacity. My father doesn't give up. He presses through. He gets things done, and I try my best to embody that and just kind of soak that in and employ that in my own life. Just that stick to it, get the job done, don't give up attitude. He's also tremendously calm under fire. Like I tend to, run a little high and a little, intense. He's very mellow and very low key, which kind of, reminds me to center myself. And, if I don't see him freak out, I don't freak out. So, yeah.
I love that. And as women, as young women, especially having a father presence in your life and having some a stable foundation is really important just for our womanhood, but even just for the growth of who we are. So I love that you look to him, even still look to him for inspiration and guidance in like next steps. So that's really powerful. Thank you. Larry,
Thank you.
what superpowers are you most proud of in watching the growth of your successful daughter?
Well, I have to say, when we started this project, she was nervous, um, uncomfortable, and I think felt like there was more than she could handle. I think what I've seen and what I'm really proud of is to see how much she's grown throughout this whole process, and how she's really taken charge of a lot of the things that we've done around this project, and just like made them happen. And so, and I say this all the time, but if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't have happened. Not only that she convinced me to do it, but she put in all the work. I mean, she did all the work on this, and so I'm just really proud to see the growth in her over the last few years that we've been working on this. And um, I remember the first meeting we had with the agency that we were working with, and she was like, "Dad, are we? You sure?" I'm like, "La, this is good. We got this. We got this." And now she like busts in those meetings and like owns them. So, it's been amazing to watch the growth in her, just as a person and from a professional perspective. She's really grown and evolved a lot, and I'm really proud of her.
I love to hear that. So, quick question: what was it like going from father daughter relationship to business partner relationship? Is there a different dynamic there? And either one of you could answer this.
I think the dynamic's about the same to me. I mean, but you can chime in if you think it's any
No,
different.
I agree. He's, pretty much an expert at all the things that I'm trying to learn. So I usually, I voice my opinions about things or whatever, and then he'll voice his, and I'm 10 times out of 10 gonna defer to him because he's the guy who knows how to do the things.
But there have been a lot of times that she's brought up something that I haven't thought about, and I'm like, oh, you know what? That's right. I didn't think about that. So it's been a good partnership and a good relationship as far as working through this.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I did want to ask, so how did the book writing process forge a greater bond between you guys, like as father and daughter? Did it strengthen your bond at all? Did it create a different dynamic? Like, how did the book writing process do that for you guys? Anyone can answer.
Go ahead, now.
Um, I absolutely feel like it brought us closer. It was, I mean, not only did we have to, we had to spend a tremendous amount of time together, and we had to discuss things that we maybe wouldn't have otherwise.
Mhm.
So I feel like I got to know him and came to understand him in ways that I wouldn't have if we didn't do work on this project together. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity for, you know, us to be able to just get to know each other and talk and listen and, you know, vibe. It's I always say it was priceless. I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Yeah, no, and I agree 100%. And I think that um, us talking about things that were not easy to talk about. For me, the fact that it was her made it easier for me to talk and share. Made it easier for me to open up. As if it was someone else, it would have been a lot more challenging. But the
Mm.
fact that it was her, and I always say she still has to love me, even though no matter what I say, she gotta love me. Um, so it made it easier, I think, for me to be able to open up. It wasn't even with her, it wasn't easy because these are things that I've been like holding in and not talking about and trying not to think about for years. And but the fact that I was able to share with her and we were able to work together on this made it a lot easier for me.
I really love that because, Lila, you said something when you was like, when you said you got to know him a little bit better. Isn't it interesting? I'm sure your whole life you just looked at your dad as this is my father. This is my dad. And so when you get to talk to him and remove the father aspect and look at him as a man, as an individual, as somebody who's gone through these things, I could just imagine, and I know the feeling because I have the same relationship with my father as well. Isn't it interesting? We get to see them as just people and not just like this is just my dad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's trippy and I guess one day my kids will do the same thing. They'll look back and see, you know, mom as a woman, as a person, not just, you know, mom. Because that's exactly what, you know, this writing the book together allowed me to do, you know, see him as more than just my father, but as a person
Mhm.
with thoughts and feelings and fears and dreams and you know pain,
Yeah.
the things that parents typically hide, try to you know keep from their kids or don't enjoy talking about with their kids.
Absolutely. It makes it more real. Like I've found in certain situations with my parents losing their parents and you become a parent to your parent in certain situations where you never thought some people don't have the privilege and honor. So I feel it's more making them more human to us. And like you just said, not just my dad. So I really love that. Larry, this is for you. So Jump is about your secret journey from the streets to the boardroom. And the intro reads, the whole town seemed to be there in the night of the Jordan brand launch. Snoop Dogg showed up with Ice Cube, Phil Knight, and the whole Nike leadership team was there. Michael Jordan, of course. The place was humming. At first, Stevie Wonder had said wasn't coming until his teenage son heard MJ would be there. I looked around the room and wondered, how the hell did I get here? Not one in the room knew the real Larry Miller. So my question for you is, what is the secret that you didn't want anyone to know as you successfully articulated up the corporate ladder, all the way up to the president of the Jordan brand for Nike and president of the NBA Portland Trail Blazers, and now chairman of the Jordan brand?
So from the age of like 12, 13 up until 30, I was in and out of trouble. I was in and out of jail. Um, I was in a gang when I was 12, 13 years old. I joined a gang. When I was 16 years old, I shot another young man and he died. And I was charged as an adult at 16. Was sentenced to 4.5 to 20 years for a second degree murder. Did the 4.5. Got out. Was still involved in the street and criminal stuff. Ended up going back to prison with five armed robbery charges. And um, But when I was there that last time, when I was incarcerated the last time, they had a program there where you could actually take college classes inside the jail and stay out of trouble. And then you could qualify to move into these trailers that were outside the jail wall. And you leave every day and go to school and have to be back by 8 o'clock at night. When I heard about that program, I was like, that's how I want to do my time, being able to leave every day and come back. Um, but once I got into the program, I really started to believe that I could change my life and believe that I could do something positive with my life. I got my associate's degree while I was in that program, transferred down to Temple University, and transferred to a halfway house in North Philly. Got my bachelor's degree at Temple. and in accounting, and started working at Campbell Soup, and that's how when I started my career. But when I was about to graduate, they had there was what was called the Big Eight accounting firms at the time, and if you were an accounting major, that's what you wanted to do, work for one of the Big Eight firms. And I had kind of identified one that I was really interested in. It's called Arthur Anderson, and went there, spent the whole day there interviewing with a number of people. And in the back of my mind, the whole day, I'm wondering, like, should I share my background with these folks? Because they're just seeing me as a student who's about to graduate with honors in accounting, Black student. We need Black folks in our organization. So let's try to hire him. So that was their perspective. But all day I'm interviewing with different people, and I'm like, man, should I say something? So finally, I get to the last person, who was like the hiring manager, and I said, I think, okay, I'm going to share. So I start sharing my story with him and start telling him about my background and my past. And as I'm talking to him, I can see his face changing, and not in a good way.
Mm.
And so eventually, I finished my conversation, and he said, wow, that's an amazing story. He said, I'm sure you're going to do well. And he reached in his pocket and pulled out an envelope, and he said, I had an offer letter here all ready to give you, but I can't give it to you now. I can't take the chance on something happening. I just can't take. So I wish you the best, but I can't hire. I can't hire you. And at that point, I decided I wasn't going to share my background with anyone. If it came up, I wasn't going to deny it. If there was a question, I wasn't going to lie about it, but I wasn't going to volunteer the information. And for 40 years, that's pretty much how I built my career, with that secret kind of hanging over my head, and being nervous and anxious and concerned that it would come out somehow. And so that's why I was, no one knew about this story. That's why, because I kind of hid from it for all those years. And so that was my secret. That was the secret that I carried from the street to the boardroom.
Wow. I mean, that's such a powerful testimonial all in itself, that from it's not always where you start, right? It's where you decide to go in life, and you've completely turned your life around. And I'm sure and I know that's inspiring for a lot of people, whether it be the same type of fate but something different. So question for you: after finally telling this story, how relieved do you feel to no longer have this weighing on you after 40 some odd years?
It was like a major burden being lifted off my back. Throughout the years, I had recurring nightmares that I'd wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, dreaming that I was going back to jail for some reason or something I didn't know about. I had migraines to the point where I ended up in the ER a couple times, and all of this was just stress and anxiety of being worried about being found out. And once I started sharing my story with La, once we started to talk and I started to get it out, the nightmares stopped, the migraines stopped, and it's like a major burden has been lifted off my back. Now I'm not walking around worried and concerned that, hey, somebody's going to find out my story, or somebody's going to find out what I've done or where I've been. And I think the fact that the other thing that I think is that I'm thankful for, and I thank La for pushing me to tell the story, but to be able to share it on my own terms.
Yes.
To me, that's, because it could have somehow somebody could have found out, and then I'm, trying to defend and trying to explain, and this way to kind of put the story out on my own terms.
Mhm.
I think that made a major difference for me.
Absolutely. It's a thing that I'm a former publicist. It's a thing that all publicists do. You got to get your narrative out and get your story out first, because everybody else will tell it differently. It's that broken telephone. So I applaud you for sharing that, and just glory be to God as well that the headache stopped, and these things stopped, and that's a form of mental health as well. Having this burden weigh on you. Laila, how did you feel when you found out your dad's secret? Like, how hard was it for you to accept that, the things that you heard, and what inspired you to convince your dad to partner with you to co-write, sorry, his memoirs, Jump?
I was always aware of my dad's background. Even, as a small child, I remember going to visit him in the penitentiary. So I was always aware that it wasn't just a straight line from school to the typical success story. I kind of always knew the background. I didn't know the details,
Mhm.
and that part was challenging to hear, to write, to process, but very necessary at the same time. Like it's definitely something that I'm thankful we created the opportunity to share and heal in ourselves, and hopefully others beyond us can also get some access some of that healing.
Mm.
But it was it was a challenge, but very, very thankful at the same time.
I love that. And I was going to ask as well, because you talked about thankful and challenging. There was a question that was asking what was one of the challenging parts in writing Jump Together, but I want to rephrase, what is the ultimate lesson you both learned about second chances, regarding each other's relationship as a daughter and father?
I think I'm definitely walking away with a deeper understanding of the fact that nobody on earth should be judged by the worst thing that they've done on the worst day of their lives. Then that's a Brian Stevenson quote, but I love it. I use it all the time, because there's nobody out here who hasn't made a mistake. Some are there's levels, and there's a whole spectrum of mistakes from small to large. But everybody falls somewhere on that scale.
Mm.
So I just feel like I personally have learned to not judge people based off of their actions, but more off of their intentions now, where they are now, what their possibilities are moving forward, and not what's behind them.
Absolutely. Larry, yourself, any lessons you learned about second chances?
Well, for me, the whole idea of redemption and of changing your life and turning things around for your life is, to me, it's a reality. I'm an example of that. And one of the things that I try to challenge a lot is people will say, well, you're an exception. You're an exception, and that's not the case at all. I think I was just in a situation where opportunity was presented and I was willing and able to take advantage of the opportunity that was presented. I know for a fact there are a lot of other people who would take advantage of opportunities if those opportunities were presented to be able to change their life. And so for me, it's about second chances, third chances. It's about giving people an opportunity to. It's to me, it starts with the individual. Person has to really want to change and has to really believe. Then they have to believe that they can change, and then there have to be opportunities for them to be able to do that. And so to me, again, I think I am an example of the fact that a person can change their life and can become contributors to their community. But again, it's not. I'm not an exception. I think there are a lot of other people. I know for a fact there are a lot of other folks opportunities to do the same thing if they were given that opportunity, for sure.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. A lot of people would take the chance if they were given it. So Larry, I want to ask you, what lessons of greatness or goatness, because goat is the word now, have you learned working so closely with Michael Jordan and his iconic brand?
Well, for me, when we started Jordan as kind of a separate business inside of Nike, our focus was, and what we looked at said, hey, all these things that Michael Jordan represents both on and off the court, we want the brand to represent those same qualities. And so that's what we pursued. And it was funny the other day because I was talking to someone and he said, he said, it's not even so much about Michael Jordan now because the brand represents what Michael And I was like, thank you, because that's what we were trying to accomplish all along. That it really is about those qualities that Michael Jordan represents. And so having the opportunity to work closely with him and to see those qualities, up close and personal has been an amazing opportunity for me. It's funny. I remember this is before I started working for Nike. I actually had a dream that I was working with Michael Jordan on business stuff, and I shared that. I was married at the time, and I shared that with my ex-wife, but I didn't say anything to anyone else about it. And for it to actually come to reality has been just an amazing opportunity. He is as good of a business person as he was a basketball player. I mean, to me, he brings he he's been our secret sauce to make the Jordan brand what it is today. We've got some incredible people that work on the brand. We've got some incredible thinkers and creative people. But at the end of the day, it really is MJ at the core of what we do, and the qualities and everything that he represents is really what we've tried to emulate as far as the brand is concerned. So again, for me, having the opportunity to work closely with him and just to see how he thinks and how he approaches things has been incredible for me.
I love that, and I love that you talked about you had a dream about it and it came to fruition. That was a prophecy. That wasn't a dream. That was a foresight into your reality that at the time you had no idea. And the fact that it's connected is just, I just want to say, divine. So I'm so glad that you shared that tidbit.
Yeah, there's a person that been working with me on the Jordan brand from the beginning. His name is Howard White, and H and I always talk about the fact that it was destiny here. This didn't just happen. The fact that him and myself and MJ were able to come together and do what we've done, it wasn't like any of us planned this. It just kind of happened. And H and I, H is a very spiritual, kind of otherworldly person, and he's definitely, he and I've talked a lot about the fact that this was not something that just happened by mistake.
Absolutely. I don't know H, but I 100% agree with everything he said. Laila and Larry, this is for you, but Laila, I'll start with you. What's next for you guys as a dynamic duo, and how can people follow you guys online?
They can follow us at Jump the Book on Instagram and Facebook. And we're just basically trying to talk to as many people as we can to get the message out of what our story is about, what our book is about, and hope that we can continue spreading the message of redemption, of second chances, of just letting people evolve and progress, and hopefully reinstating a lot of the opportunities for redemption and prison education that were lost in the late 80s, throughout the 90s, 2000s. Just kind of showing people that these programs do work. Here is a prime example of what people can do when given the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of people, organizations out there that are doing good work in terms of
Yes.
trying to help people reacclimate to society once they get out, helping people to learn things while they're currently incarcerated, helping to change the system so that the system works better for people that it should be working for. So what we've been doing is kind of lending our support to a lot of these type of organizations and helping people who are doing the work to maybe pour a little fuel on the work that they're doing by lending our support and sharing our story as a part of what they're doing. That's one of the things that we've been doing quite a bit of, actually.
Amazing.
Yes.
And I love the idea of giving back and really being there. I talked a little bit some time ago about mentorship and, being somebody, having somebody in a position of exactly where you were to show you the real realities and possibilities. So I love that you guys are doing that. And then last thing, any motivational words that will allow our viewers to jump over any of their fears and into their dreams. Either one of you could start.
Yeah.
I would just say, um, to anybody who finds themselves in a dark place or in a place where, you know, they feel like they are ready to change their lives and ready to begin again, there are people out there who will help you. There are people, there are organizations, there are churches, there are any number of resources, but sometimes you have to look for them. But I guarantee there are people who care and who want to help. You just have to reach your hand out and grab for it.
Yeah. No, and the last thing I would like to share is the fact that we had an opportunity to sit down and meet with the family of Mr. White, the young man that I shot when I was 16 years old, and we had an opportunity to sit down, and I shared with them how sorry and remorseful I am for what happened, and wished I could have undo it. They were able to share their feelings and their thoughts about what happened, but at the end, they each spoke, and at the end, they each said, "But I forgive you." And at the end of the day, that was the most important thing coming out of this whole process for me. I mean, sharing the story and hopefully motivating and inspiring some people. That's great, and I'm glad that we're doing that. But from a personal perspective, from an individual and a personal perspective, having Mr. White's family, express forgiveness, that to me is something that I think I know it was incredible healing for me, and hopefully it was healing for them as well. And so I think, one of the things that I would just talk about is the ability to forgive and the ability to, overcome and to heal. And again, I know this whole process, writing the book and talking with La about it and all, this has been a healing for me. And then the most the most important part of that healing was the forgiveness that I was able to get from Mr. White's family. So I would just like to say, thank you to them, and it's been amazing to feel that burden lifted.
I that touches me, and I love that that's what you took out of it, and that again, at the end of the day, forgiveness is definitely healing, and the fact that you guys were able to have a conversation years later and come to a sense of peace between all parties is just powerful, because not everybody gets peace. So thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your story. You guys, please go support, follow them on Instagram, grab the book, read the story, be inspired is what I took out from this. So be inspired, know that you can overcome any challenges put ahead of you guys, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do next. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
having us.
having us, Jay.
Thank you for having us, Jay.